I think I just happened to underestimate what sunset was going to be this evening. I had higher hopes in this. Apparently that didn't pay off. I'm realizing that now. Today, I am out in a new location. I've actually made it back to Chicago, first time in 3 years. I'm actually out for sunset. I'm gonna see what we can get in terms of some evening shots. Now, of course, the sunset's this way. I'm aiming this way, but the way that the light is, we might get some nice golden color cast. So what we're doing as of right now, I'm getting my tripod and everything set up. Got this Array ST125 tripod right there with the Sony A1. And if we come around, we got the Zeiss Loxia 35 f2. I also have filters, which we're gonna pull some of these out. Now, the reason I'm using filters, or why I like using filters for stuff like this, is because, as you can see, we got water and we got some slow moving clouds. With the long exposure, you kind of take the ripples out of the water, and then the flowing of the clouds just makes it look like you got a lot of streaks. So that's why we love using filters for that. So I'm gonna add my little adapter attachment here. And the reason I have these is because my filters are all 77 millimeters. My lenses, at least for the Zeiss Loxias, are all 52. Now, ideally, I always recommend people to get bigger filters if they're using the circular polarizers, or sorry, the circular filters. Go bigger, because what that does is it eliminates you having the vignetting that sometimes happens when you have filters, especially when you stack them. So if you go bigger, you don't have to worry too much about that. It basically eliminates that altogether. Because you're stacking, as you can see, this surface area is wider than what my actual filter thread is of the lens. So as I stack filters, I eliminate having that vignetting, which I don't want to have. So go larger if you can. And it helps because if you get upgraded lenses later on, you actually have big enough filters that probably will work perfectly fine for those filters. So we got our adapter, and I think we're gonna do we want to start with a 6-stop or a 10-stop? Let's see, let's do 6 first. And so these are all magnetic filters from Haida. These are the magnetic system. So once I put this adapter up here, I attach the magnetic clamp, and then all I have to do is just place the filter up there. So much easier than the traditional screw on, where you got to screw on and off the filters. It's actually a big pain in the butt when you have to do that. So let's go and adjust our settings here. I'm gonna be at 100. We actually might not be slow enough. 5 seconds, I think that'll be good. We're gonna switch to the 2-second timer. I do have my remote, but I don't always like pulling it out if I don't have to, because it's just something else that I have to deal with and attach and all that stuff. So let's see what we can do without it. So I have image stabilization turned off. F13 5-second, ISO 100. Let's see what that gives me. It's not bad. Oh, it does help if you actually set the focus, which I forgot to do. Forgot I'm using a manual lens here. So we got the focus set. Now let's try that again. Oh, that's perfect. That is perfect. Yeah, that's not a bad shot. It's not a bad composition at all. Kind of wish the lighting was a bit better, but we're gonna see what we can salvage out of this. Now, the funny thing is kind of behind me in this framing, that composition actually looks a whole lot better. I don't know if I want that or not. It's interesting. But nonetheless, that's what we're getting. So I'm gonna do some, of course, I always do my thing where I get the horizontal and the vertical. So we're just locked into the vertical orientation for right now. Let's come in there. Look at how crispy that is. Such crispy image. Wow. Now we got some of the vertical gonna get some horizontal, because you always gotta have both frames. Like, looks good. Still got the same settings. I'm gonna take that. I'm just not really, I'm not too keen on this, like the conditions, but we're here. It's actually a long way. My whole thought process is, if I nail today or at least get something I'm happy with, I don't have to come all the way back out here. I can just stay in downtown and worry about getting those images and whatnot later on. What I would like to see or like to have is the water would kind of have to be a little bit higher, because it's actually very, very low right now, low tide. Is the water going over this a bit? So that way I kind of catch the cascading off of the pier, but we're not gonna get that here, which is unfortunate. Part of me feels like if I could take these photos, they're okay, not really ideal. I think what I have to do is come out in the morning time, because the sunrise is actually over on this side, whereas the sunset is back behind. So the lighting, ideally, like if I had the lighting place right there, we would be perfect, but it's not. So I'm packing up because I'm gonna move a little bit, get a little bit better framing. So because this isn't that fascinating with this sort of pier going around, I said, we're gonna move a little bit because the water's not where I want it. That happens sometimes, but you never know how things are until once you're out in a particular location. So we're gonna move a little closer and just focus our attention on the water at the bottom of the frame and the skyline. So I think that's gonna be the prettiest shot that we get out of this. Okay, so I like this framing better. So we lost the pier. Now it's just the skyline and the water down there. Got a lot of people out here doing some couple photo shoots, I see. And I don't have any autofocusing lenses with me, so yeah, we're not doing any kind of street stuff, or kind of hate I don't, because there's seagulls around. I cannot get those photos. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Maybe as the light goes down, we'll have a little bit better light. But let's get a horizontal. Okay, so this gives you an idea to what using a filter does. So the light is still relatively bright. Because of that, we can't go that slow on shutter speed. So let me show you, right now we're at 15 seconds with a 6-stop filter. Now if I take the filter off, see what a drastic difference that is. We're only at 1/3 of a second. So if I take that shot, that's the difference between 1/3 of a second and 15 seconds. Massive difference. That's why, you know, use filters as needed based on how much you want the light to be reduced. That way you have increased shutter speed times when you're taking photos. Now it's not terribly cold out, which I'm happy about. I thought it was gonna be a little bit colder than what it really is, but it's not. I'm surprised. And I'm on the lake. It's usually tremendously cold here, especially the closer you get to the lakes here. Okay, I think we got some good ones horizontally. Let's get the verticals. Frame that. Yeah, the light's not gonna get any better than what it is. So we just capture what we can. So I feel like I will have to come back out here at some point. Not too thrilled about that, but that's how it goes. We still have the same setup. I'm still on a 6-stop. Eventually I'm about to take that off, because if you look back here, you see that blinking thing? Well, that means when you're setting your camera and you don't have it in bulb mode, I've maxed out my shutter speed, so I can't go slower than 30 seconds internally without using the remote and switching it to bulb mode. So we're not gonna do that. We are not gonna do that. I have my remote. I just don't want to pull it out. I never like pulling that out. And there's no need to go longer than 30 seconds, to be honest. I do think I'm gonna stay for the building lights to come on, because then that actually might make this salvageable to a certain extent. It's still kind of flat. I'm not denying that part. I don't know if it was a miscalculation on my part. No, probably not. I'm never wrong. I still stand by that. I think I just happened to underestimate what sunset was gonna be this evening. I had higher hopes in this. Apparently that didn't pay off. I'm realizing that now. But I think that's the enjoyment of photography. Sometimes you get what you want, sometimes you don't. Since you're already here, you try to make the best out of it, even though you might can't. Yeah, that's where we are. Like, I'm not freezing, but it is cold. So we're trying to get as much as we can because I don't want to come back if I don't have to. That is the mission right now. That's it. Because the light is going down, I have to keep changing my camera settings. So I was at f13. We've now lowered that a bit to f10. ISO was at 80. I think we've changed that to 100. Well, we were at 50, we moved it to 80, somewhere around in there. We'll find out in a minute. Oh, we're actually at ISO 64. And we got the water looking like a sheet of ice. I think once I bring this into post, I think we're just gonna desaturate the blue anyway, because it's kind of a distraction. Once the lights start coming on, we'll have that pop of yellow. So play with the yellow, play with the orange. I think that'll look pretty good. With this black building, which is the Hancock building, actually should make a really nice desaturated image and having high contrast, because with that building in there front and center, that actually is not a bad idea. See, as I'm visualizing this and I'm seeing it, that's how I determine how my editing goes. So we got the light blinking again. Let me know that I'm over 30 seconds, which means, oh, you got to change your settings again. Still using the 6-stop filter. So as my speed gets too slow, or it needs to go slower than what I can internally, I'm just increasing the ISO. That's how I get around that. Now that I think about it, am I using the 10-stop or the 6-stop? I don't even remember. Once this photo takes, I'm gonna check that, because I actually don't remember. I promise you, I don't have memory issues at all. I promise you that. For some odd reason, I'm just not remembering what the heck I'm doing. Okay, this is in fact the 6-stop. I had to make certain of that. I thought that's what it was. I just was not certain of that. I don't know why. Why did I think I had a 10-stop on? I don't know. Whatever. So, see what I was talking about with the blue? It's kind of distracting. I guess depending on how I decide to post-process, the blue is okay. But right now, as I'm looking at this, yeah, we're gonna take that out. We're gonna desaturate the blue. Because I mean, look at that. See how that you just got that building in the middle, the black. Just think high contrast photo with that building. That actually looks kind of nice. Like, can't you visualize that? That's what I do. Because if I don't like the picture at all, I'm not even gonna do anything with it 9 out of 10 times. But if I can actually, you know, put it together before I'm even near my computer, that helps save time to where I'm not figuring out what the heck I want to do, or gotta figure out how do I want that to look after I've edited or whatever. You know, I try to do that while I'm here, while I'm looking at the scene and picking out certain things, because it's like, this is a bigger frame to look at everything as opposed to my little 3-inch screen or looking at it on a laptop. You know, I can see it right here in front of me. So that's why, get as much information as you can while you're on location, because then bringing into post, you start the editing process, it goes a lot faster, it's a lot easier. Now, if we had those colors over here, that would have been fascinating. So I think I'm gonna wrap it up in a few minutes, let the lights on the buildings come on a little bit. You know, I don't know, maybe I'll show you a little bit more later on, we'll see. If not, you know, you'll see the pictures, the ones that I've taken throughout this, and then if there are anything additional, I'll just put those at the end so you can see those as well. Here we are in Adobe Lightroom with one of the images that we happened to capture earlier here in Chicago. And I wanted to go through and just talk through some of the adjustments that I did for this image. Now, remember earlier in the video, I had mentioned that I thought it would be a very cool idea if we had sort of the John Hancock building that's here in the middle sort of stand out and just kind of be a more muted image, where you have more harsh contrast, where the image has more blacks and a nice golden tone to it. So I've already done a few basic adjustments. We've already applied our Modern 7 profile, and I've gone through and did some adjustments to just the basic lighting with exposure, shadows, whites, those sort of things. So if we go here to our tone curve first, you see I have everything disabled because I've already gone through with the adjustments, and so I'm just going to talk through what I did. So if we enable the tone curve, you see all I did here was bring my shadows down further so that way you get a much deeper contrast level. So after that, I did a few adjustments to the dark and shadows here as well for our region adjustments in the tone curve. So of course, with our HSL, this was gonna be the biggest thing, primarily with the sole color of blue. So if we enable that, look at what happens. You see, we've taken a lot of that blue color out, and you sort of have just pretty much your gold, your yellows that are the predominant factors here in our image. It looks really nice already, but we still want to add a little bit more to it, which I'll do that in the color grading. So as we go down to color grading and we enable that, you see how we drastically transform this image. Now I adjusted everything, my shadows, midtones, highlights, as well as a global adjustment. And I'll go through and show you what some of those actually did on the image. So if we mute our shadows, you kind of see what's taking place here. You know, we just get a little bit more contrast because I lowered my luminance for my shadows. And that was the only thing that I did here, really. You know, we add a little smidge of a yellow hue into the image of our shadows, a very slight. And then for our midtones, sort of did the same thing, but we came up a little bit more in the saturation, so the intensity was a little bit stronger here for our midtones. And then we also increased our luminance here, so it just made the image a little bit brighter in our midtones. Next, we also adjusted highlights. Again, same thing, because we want to have that really nice golden color tone. And then lastly, here's our global adjustment, and of course, add that warmth again. You kind of see what that did, just gave a little bit final warmth to the image. That's all it did. So then lastly, of course, once we add our little vignette, you kind of get this nice dark tone kind of image. Now, you know, I can bring out my vignette a little bit if I wanted to. For some reason, my mindset just saw like kind of a Gotham City type of feel. So that's why I kind of made the image darker than what it really is. So once I've done that, I also wanted to add, you know, my typical pop of light. So I'm going to show you that part at least in Adobe Photoshop. So let's head on over there. So all I'm going to do is come up to filter. We're going to locate render and just add a lens flare. And, you know, you drop it where you want. And let's see, do we want to adjust the brightness a bit? Let's maybe do 90% or so. And once we've done that, we'll hit OK. Now we're going to undo it. So we're going to do Command Z, and we'll go up to layer, create a new fill layer, solid color. And once we've done that, we'll select OK. And you want to make sure that your color is black. If it's not, go ahead and set that to black, because that is very important here. We'll just recall our filter, which was the lens flare. And of course, you can also do the shortcut of Control, Command, and F if you choose to do so. We'll apply the lens flare back. But this time it's on that fill layer. It's not on the actual image like we started with. Let's go back to filter, select blur, and then Gaussian blur. 90 isn't bad. We'll keep it at 90. With that layer still selected, we'll select the down arrow where it has normal, and we want to select screen. And so once we've selected screen, you know, you can adjust the opacity of how you want it to stand out in your image. And so we just want to add, you know, maybe go to 80%. Now, sometimes what I'll do, if I want to sort of change the prominence of that a little bit more, I'll come up to image, select adjustments, and then brightness and contrast. And I'll play around with this a little bit. So maybe I'll bring the brightness down, but then increase my contrast a bit. So see how it kind of mutes that light a little bit without really destroying the whole aesthetics of it. So sometimes I may do that. So let's actually keep that. Let's flatten our image. And then I may do some final level and curve adjustments here too, if I wanted to, you know, get even more deeper blacks. So we'll do the shortcut Command L. And I have several presets here for my levels. So we'll do my custom 6 because I know that has a really nice contrast. And once we've done that, we'll do Command M. This brings up my curves. Let's see what 2 gives us. Let's try 3. See, that's a little bit deeper. So let's keep it with 3. And then let's maybe take our brush here. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's go to 1200. Okay. Let's maybe bring up a little bit in our light area here. Okay, that looks really good. And so see, that's how we got that look of what I talked about earlier, of how I really wanted it to just be a deep contrast image, because since the Hancock building is our tallest building in the image, that was sort of my focal point. Be sure to check out more of my videos here on my YouTube channel. If you're interested in any of the Adobe presets that I have, you can also check out my store at professorhines.com/store. And as always, you can find more tutorials, you can find out information about my workshops on my website as well. So until next time, I will see you all in the next video.